Coming up this November, a man from Oregon is going on an expedition. He believes it could help solve the Amelia Earhart mystery. He's holding a talk this Saturday to explain that mission, and I sat down with Dr. Richard Pettigrew earlier this week to learn about what he hopes to accomplish.
For decades, the mystery around Amelia Earhart has puzzled scientists across the globe. And now a man from Oregon hoping to maybe place the next piece into that puzzle, specifically surrounding something called the Taraia object. Joining us now on NBC 16 today, Dr. Richard Pettigrew from the Archeological Legacy Institute right here in Eugene. First of all, Dr. Pettigrew, how are you this morning? And thanks for joining us.
I'm doing fine, and thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely. So we talked about it a little bit there in the intro, the Taraia object. For folks who are unfamiliar, like myself, not long ago, what is this object and how could it possibly play a role in finding the next step in this mystery?
Right. Well, it's an object that appears in satellite images. It was first noticed in 2020 by a guy in California named Michael Ashmore, and he brought it to the attention of many people. And long story short, I got very interested in it and gathered up a bunch more satellite pictures. Took a close look at those pictures and gathered some more information, and I'm pretty excited about it. I think we may have found the lost aircraft of Amelia Earhart.
What an exciting discovery. What are the bits of evidence that you can see from a satellite image that leads you to that conclusion?
Well, it's just the right size. It has the visual characteristics you might expect. It's shiny. And its location, I think, fits the narrative pretty well because people have been looking, in the deep ocean off of Nicaragua for a long time. But the idea being that Amelia and her navigator, Fred Noonan, landed on the Northwest Reef Flat. It's very flat there. At low tide, you could land an aircraft. People have thought that it floated off and ended up in the deep water off the island. But I think it's equally likely, maybe even more likely, that it actually floated into the lagoon and came to rest on the lagoon bottom, right alongside the Taraia Peninsula.
Now you can see from some of this imagery, which I'll drop into this, that shows it is right there along this beach cove, and it's kind of been covered, uncovered, sort of back and forth. Basically, I think the next question is, from your standpoint, someone who kind of works to uncover these sorts of mysteries, how exciting is this sort of development when you get to have that opportunity?
Well, I mean, it's the thrill of a lifetime. I mean, I have to try to control my emotions on this because, I'm a scientist. I need to look dispassionately, objectively at the data, right? But of course, I'm a human being. So solving, what may be the greatest mystery of the 20th century is not something I take lightly. It certainly has captured my attention and the attention of many other people. So it's the thrill of a lifetime.
Now, what's the next step for you at ALI, the Archeological Legacy Institute? What's the next step? I know that there's an expedition coming.
Right. So we're inviting the public to come to our office. You have to go through our website, but because I'm not sure we have enough room for all the people who might want to come through the door. But I'm going to give a presentation Saturday night. Doors open at 6:30. I'm going to make a presentation at 7:30, basically to fill people in on what this is all about, and how we got to this point, what we're going to do. But beyond that, in November, we're taking a couple of boats from Majuro Marshall Islands to Nicaragua. We're going to be 6 days on the water before we can get there, and then 5 days going back and forth to the island to examine this object.
Does this look like hands-on examination? Are you digging through the sand? What sort of tasks will be underway when you guys are there on the island?
Right. Well, right now it looks like it's covered under a thin veneer of sediment, and we can see the shape of it under that sediment. So we're first going to do some remote sensing, photography, the kind of things that are not going to disturb it, because as soon as you disturb it, the visibility, goes to zero. It's very, very fine sediment. So if it starts floating in the water, you can't see anything. So we're going to do everything remotely, photography, magnetometry, side scan, sonar, all that stuff before we disturb it. We're going to do some probing, just physical probing to contact it. Then we're going to do a suction dredge. So that means sucking sediment off the top of it as carefully as possible so that we can uncover enough of it to identify what it is. Now, we're probably not going to see an insignia, right? That would be too much to expect. But the Electra aircraft was a unique aircraft. I think we could identify fairly readily. Once we've uncovered enough of it, And besides that, it's hard to imagine what else it could be because of the size and physical characteristics of it. The only other thing I can imagine is maybe an alien spacecraft or something.
Having that presentation, like you said, this Saturday evening at the ALI office in Eugene. What can folks expect to learn there if they're to come through y'all doors Saturday night?
Right. Well, basically, I'm just going to walk through the basic information about it, where we got, how we got to this point. We have a short video which we prepared to summarize the basic supporting evidence for what we call the Nikamura hypothesis, which has been, proposed for a long time by the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, otherwise known as TIGER. They started working there in 1989, gathering evidence. They've been there at least a dozen times. I've been there along with them. I was there in 2017. So there's a lot of background data that we put together into a video. And then I'm going to walk through a few slides explaining the concept of the Taraia object, something about the satellite imagery that we have, the research that's been done, and talk about what we're planning to do when we go there in November.
Now, you talked a few moments ago about your battle between human nature and scientific nature, where you have to kind of hold back that kind of human natural excitement that could come with this sort of discovery. But let me prod to that side of you a little bit here.
Sure.
You've worked on this for years. Is there a chance that when you go in November, that you make some sort of discovery that really does answer the question, what happened to Amelia Earhart?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have a very good chance.
What does that feel like to say with that level of confidence when you're sitting in your seat there?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of amazes me every time I say it, right? I mean, I tell people about it, and when I hear the words that I speak, I'm still taken aback, because it's not something I expected to be able to do. I never imagined that I would be in this kind of position, but here I am. But I think I'm pretty well positioned for it. I mean, after more than 50 years of archaeological career right here in Eugene, a lot of projects that I've undertaken. The basic, kind of scientific methodology is archaeological. And so I feel, very well prepared to address this, using the background knowledge that I have, the methodology that I'm familiar with, the experience I have with building research teams and undertaking field work. I'm very confident that when we go there, we can accomplish this task.
Now, what does accomplishing this task look like? Is it discovering is it some of that electromagnetic imagery where you can discover the shape of the plane? Like you said, is it the lucky insignia you might see? What would define success in November?
Well, we're gonna image it every possible way. Magnetometry, side scan sonar, photography, both above with drones and in the water, and expose it. Right. So once we've exposed enough of it, I think we'll be able to determine what it is. And what does that look like? Well, it's going to look like a wreck, right? So what we're seeing in the satellite imagery doesn't really look a lot like an aircraft, but if it's the Electra, it's an aircraft that's been badly damaged. First of all, I had to roll around on the reef. So the wings came off, the engines came off, the landing gear came off, and it's very likely that the tail section was damaged and turned at an angle to the fuselage. That's kind of what it looks like. But that's an interpretation based on imagery that we can see from space. And there's also some images that we have, some aerial photography that we have going way back to 1938. But this is an interpretation. Once we have a chance to look at it physically, and being familiar, with the aircraft itself, there's all sorts of data about the aircraft that we know about. So I don't think it's going to be difficult to come to the conclusion about what it is, if it is the Electra. So we'll bring back all that imagery information, all the other information, and lay that out for people to see. And so I think it's going to be the conclusive evidence, the so-called smoking gun evidence that people have been looking for many, many decades.
What an exciting time. What an exciting potential opportunity for someone right here in Eugene. A reason for us all to rally around and watch, like we said, Dr. Richard Pettigrew. Go check this out and hopefully bring back some really exciting information. Doctor, before we finish up here, remind folks this weekend, Saturday, I believe it's doors at 6:30. Event starts at 7:30. What can people expect at the Archeological Legacy Institute this
Well,
Saturday
it's going
evening?
to be very informal. We have a small office. We have a conference room. That's where we're doing the presentation. We'll have a few beverages and snacks for people, and an opportunity to talk, one-on-one about it. And it's going to be a happy time, a friendly time. It's not going to be, some kind of overbearing scientific lecture.
Digestible scientific conversations. What a wonderful thing to do. We maybe need to chat again about other topics then, if that's the case.
All right.
Dr. Richard Pettigrew from the Archeological Legacy Institute, thank you so much for joining us and spending a little bit of time shedding some light onto what can be a very fascinating discovery.